Welcome to Home Biz Tax Talk. My name is Lysandra Everett. I am the Home Biz Tax Lady, where I help home business owners win the tax game. Home Biz Tax Talk airs Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock-ish. And when you tune into my show, you're going to hear about topics that are important to the home business community. And today I want to share with you 5 reasons, 5 of them, why you should not be preparing your own taxes in 2019. Okay? So, number 1 is you don't know the law, or which laws apply to you, okay? You got to know tax law, all right? It's not enough for you to, get Google and YouTube educated. I am a tax expert, and I tell you, even if you binge watch all of my videos, it's still not enough. You don't know the laws that apply to you, whether you have investments, if you have a business, you get Facebook educated off these posts that are so wrong, okay? Sometimes I cringe, right? When I see some of these posts, and when you try to correct that, then you see people like, okay, well, my 7-figure earner said this, and my 7-figure earner said that, and my real estate mentor and all this other stuff. And I just simply tell you, they have attorneys and you don't. Okay. So if you don't know the law, how it applies to you, you should not be preparing your taxes, okay? And especially with this year, because this is the first filing with our Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, our tax reform. A whole bunch of stuff has changed. There are laws that applied in 2017 that did not apply to 2018. And some people are now just figuring out that, hey, there's something wrong here with my refund amount or my itemized deductions. That's because you weren't keeping up with the tax laws, okay? So number 1, you don't know the laws, the tax laws that apply to you and how they apply. You should not be doing your own taxes, okay? Number 2, you don't know which forms to use. I cannot tell you how many times people reach out to me to say, hey, what form should I use for this? Or what form should I use for that? If you don't know the forms, then you don't know how to use them. You don't know the forms, the schedules, what changes what. You don't know these things. So if you don't know the forms, you don't know how to use them, you should not be preparing your own taxes. Because see, not all forms have corresponding names, right? There are forms that feed into other forms. And if you don't know that, then you don't know where to properly put the information. Home preparation tax software doesn't necessarily ask you all the questions that you need to be asked in order to put the numbers where you need to put them. And especially for my Forex squad, listen, I had someone reach out to me and said, hey, I couldn't find this form, so I just put this number here. And I responded to them that I hope they also bought the audit insurance, because that was absolutely wrong. Okay, so if you don't know the forms, then you don't know how to use them. You should not be preparing your own taxes. Okay, number 3, you don't know the math. And what I mean is this: if you don't know what goes into coming up with the numbers, then you should not be preparing your taxes. Again, with the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, especially with my home business owners, listen, if you don't know the math behind your deductions and how they impact your return, you should not be preparing your taxes. Because there are even tax people who don't know the math. Okay, I can tell you with absolute certainty, because I got the receipts and I got the hours to prove to you that I have gone through and learned this Section 199A deduction. Listen, there's a whole bunch of algebraic stuff in there. Now, if you didn't make any money, that doesn't necessarily apply to you. However, if you have profit in your business, then that QBI deduction actually does matter. Because see, if you misstate your tax liability by 5%, you guys, you get a substantial underpayment penalty if you have a Section 199A deduction. And that's the big one, but there's other stuff. If you don't understand how these numbers impact your return, and you can't check the math to make sure it's right, or you can't look at something and say, hey, that seems a little off, then you should not be preparing your taxes, okay? You just should not. All right, number 4 is you don't have the documentation to prove what you got. See, a lot of times you want to come, I've even had people come to me and say, oh, well, I think I made, or I should have made, or no. If you don't have the documentation to prove what you have on your return, you should not be preparing your own taxes. Because see, that leads me to number 5. That is, you have the temptation to go and play with the software. Because see, what's happening right now in 2019, early in this filing season, is people are not liking the math. They're not liking the refunds that they're not getting. They're not liking the deductions that they can no longer take. So because they're not getting these deductions, there are some people that have a tax bill for the first time and they don't know how to handle that. Right? Because they've had all these deductions. So the temptation is to go and just lie a little bit, to go claim some extra charitable donations, to go claim some extra deductions here and there because you feel like you deserve to have this money back. And so I'm telling you, if you have that temptation that you can't resist, you should not be preparing your own taxes, because what's going to happen is the IRS may not catch you this year. They might not catch you next year. Oh, but I guarantee you at some point they will catch you. And there is no statute of limitations on fraud. So if they don't catch you until 2025, if they keep going back and going back and going back and say, oh, fraudulent, 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 they'll go back until they can't go back anymore. And then you can't pay. And then you wind up in trouble with the IRS. So if you can't document your dependents, if you can't document your itemized deductions, if you can't document your business expenses, if you can't document this stuff and you are like, okay, I need to get more money back, then no, you should not prepare your taxes. You need to go to someone who is a professional and will tell you, yes, you can deduct this. No, you can't. You can be mad. That's okay. We can take that. But if you don't know this stuff, this ain't what you want. Can I tell you that? You don't want the IRS coming to knock on your door. And let me give you some examples that I've heard just in the past couple weeks. I've seen where tax preparers have prepared fraudulent returns without the knowledge of the taxpayer because they're promising these huge refunds. I've had to tell a husband that his wife filed a fraudulent tax return because the IRS sent them letters. I've had to tell a son that his mama filed a fraudulent return. All because of wanting this money. If it's not yours, it's not yours. The only time you are entitled to a refund is when you overpay in taxes. That's it. Not because you feel like you should have more money back. And so when you have the software, see, there's nothing wrong with the software. It's just going to give you a number based on where you put it. And it's not going to ask you, it can't go back to you and say, okay, well, you don't have the documentation, so you can't do this. It's not going to say, no, that's not your child, so you can't do this. It's going to let you do what you want to do. But it doesn't mean it's the right thing to do. So I'm telling you, I am like in the most passionate way trying to caution you before you go down this road. Now, if you've got a simple tax return, if it's just you and your W-2, hey, you can use tax software. Do what it says, right? Just do what it says. But if you got the temptation to go put a little bit over here and a little bit over there, okay, well then, you get what you get, right? So there's nothing wrong with the software if you do what it says and if you have a simple tax return. But once you start getting complicated, if you start, with the business, if you've got investments, if you're trading Forex, listen, the Forex traders, this is not a regular home business. Okay. I need for you to understand that having trading Forex is not like, selling makeup or, or anything like, no, it's just not. You're dealing with currency. You're dealing with the SEC. See, you bringing in too many letters. Okay, when you're trading with Forex. So if you haven't studied Forex law, you need to not be preparing your taxes. Because the moment that you claim something that you shouldn't claim, hey, if you get in trouble, you're just in trouble, right? And the fact that you didn't know is not an excuse, because they're going to ask you, why didn't you go hire somebody? Okay, so listen, I've been saying this for a year. This is not the year to play around. This is not the year to go and, just do what you think and all. It is just not the year. Okay, after the dust settles, there's time for the laws to come out and become more common knowledge, and you actually take some time to learn. I've always said every taxpayer should go take a basic tax class. I really believe that. That doesn't mean you're going to be a tax professional, but it's going to make you more knowledgeable about what's in your own return, so that you know if some shady person is over there fudging some numbers and not even giving you all of the return. Too many people have been got like that, right? Because you don't know. And people will prey on your ignorance, including tax people. But if you can't find them after April 15th, I've always warned you about that. Like there's nothing, let me say this too. There's nothing necessarily wrong with people who prepare taxes and do other things. I do other things also. But I also get my education. If it's one thing you know about Lusandra is I get my study on, right? Because this is what I do. This is important to me. It's not just about the money. I got to eat, right? I got kids. They need shoes, all of that stuff. But my job is to serve you, the taxpayer. And I'm telling you that if you haven't sat down and learned what I learned, so then you should not be you shouldn't do it. Like I said, if it's just you and your W-2, go for what you know. I'm all for that. But when you start adding stuff to the mix, tax, itemizing deductions and all of that, you should see a professional. That is all. Okay? So thank you so much for tuning in to Home Biz Tax Talk. Again, we air Monday through Friday, 9 o'clock-ish, and you can come right here to get your questions answered about your home business taxes. All right. Have a great day, and I'll see y'all next time. Bye.